Everyone, Walter Crosby with Helix Sales Development, your host of Sales and Cigars. So today we have our guest is Sara Alepin. She's from District Bliss. She's got a cool networking group that she's created that promotes community, promotes the idea of networking with a sense of kindness and not being, these are my words, not hers, but not being an asshole, really trying to be a good community member. And she tries to encourage people that are in the same business to help each other out and to know when somebody might not be a good fit, they might be a good fit for one of their colleagues. So it's a cool little business. She's a photographer, so we talk about old dark rooms and developing film, and it's a fun conversation. Talk a little bit about sales, so go grab a cigar, grab a cocktail, strap in for another fun episode of Sales and Cigars. Thanks. Sara, welcome to Sales and Cigars. Appreciate you taking some time to jump on the program. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me, Walter. I'm really excited to be here.
So let's talk a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey. I don't know where that started or where you got the bug, but can we kind of go there and kind of give the audience a little background?
Sure. So I started as a darkroom photography teacher. I taught in high school, and I ended up, I had a summer job, which is like a normal person's side hustle, as a photographer. So I did weddings, and I ended up getting attacked by a student and couldn't go back to teaching. And so, and your face is the normal response, which is surprise.
Well, my aunt was a teacher and had a same word she used, attacked, and it was a long time before she went back to school. But
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I unfortunately ended up not being able to go back, but I loved it. I miss teaching every day. But it did then force me to kind of figure out my next move in life. And I wasn't just going to sit around and watch, live stream TV or whatever. And so I ended up deciding I needed to bring on a photography team to work with me, and I needed to bring on photographers that I could refer out to, because I couldn't take all the weddings physically that I would want to. And so I would go to networking events and I would introduce myself, and people would say, "Oh, you're a photographer? I'm a photographer." And then say they didn't need to know me and turn around and close me out of the circle. And I hated it. I hated it. I hated that was a thing, especially because I was going looking for photographers to work with. And to refer to, because you can't just like ghost clients. That's not good client care. And so I decided to break the system, and I founded District Bliss to bring people together instead of pull people apart.
okay, well, that's a cool story. So I want to go back to one thing you said, darkroom photography. So I took photography in high school, which was a long time ago. And there was literally a dark room. We learned how to put the paper in the one thing and then slide it over to this one and then hang it up on the thing, and right, and then actually see development. Is that what you're talking about?
Yep, that's what I'm talking about.
That's cool for those people who think cameras were always no film and all digital, and you could just delete and take thousands of pictures. It used to cost a lot of money to develop pictures.
Yeah, it's funny. I think you'll appreciate this since you actually took the class. When I first started teaching in 2005, students used to expose their film all the time because they would open the back thinking they could see the photo that they had just taken, and they would expose the whole roll of film. And it was like one of the hardest lessons for them to realize that it was not an instant gratification job.
No, we literally had to wait sometimes weeks
Yeah.
to like. I mean, I'm old enough to remember the little photomat buildings with the blue and the yellow roofs where people used to drive up and they would collect the film and then send them off for processing. Um, that's funny. Um, So, okay, so you started a business, an entrepreneurial journey, because I think the way a lot of people do, because of something happened emotionally that like that's wrong or that shouldn't be that way, right? And then like you just create a business out of that to solve that problem for yourself and other people. Is that fair?
Yeah. Yeah.
So like, talk to me about, because I don't understand that, like when I was selling in a literal competition, like I would compete with this company and that company. I never treated them as like, the evil empire. It's like we were all friendly, and we would see each other on a regular basis on job sites, and I don't know, we were competitive, but we weren't uh, wouldn't turn around and close you out of the circle, which is just rude. Um,
Yeah, I think it used to be more like you would rib people, right? Like you would like give them the business. But then I and honestly, not to say anything bad about photographers because obviously I am one. It's possible that it is a bit of the artist mindset, where there's a bit more scarcity mode in
mhm.
your brain. But yeah, usually, and I think it's such an underrated thing to be able to refer someone who's not the right fit to someone who is. Because if the client isn't a right fit for me, they don't want me at their wedding day for 10 hours hanging out with them.
Right.
They deserve to have someone that they want to be there. And or, if I don't feel like it's the right fit. And so it was always very odd to me because that's such good, it's important client care to be able to refer someone out when they aren't the right fit. And I actually get a lot of those clients that I refer out because I still do this all the time. But when I refer someone out, they will still refer me because they felt so cared for. So they'll send their friends my direction, even though I didn't photograph their wedding.
Because you did the right thing,
Yeah.
right? And people, I don't usually give people credit, but I think people understand that somebody was trying to be helpful and to be of service, and that's what you, because I do that all the time. I like, I'm what you want, I can do it. It's not my thing. I'm not great at it. I'm not going to be excited about it. But my friend Scott, he's awesome at that. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to introduce you to Scott. And if Scott passes and we can't figure something out, then let's talk again. But um, I remember the photographer we hired for our wedding. I was like, look, there's one thing I care about, or two things. One, make her happy, right? And two, we're having a cocktail hour and it's going to be over on this thing over here and it's going to be great food. And we paid for our own wedding. So like, I want the food. Like, you don't ask me to leave the thing for the photo. So what did she do? She asked me to leave the cocktail hour
I
to
was
go
going to
over
say,
there.
she let you go enjoy cocktail hour.
No, she did not. But I'll give her credit. She's like, the sun is over here, the angles, the shadows, all the stuff you guys care about was perfect over here. Like, okay, I'm not going. She's like, you have to. And then her assistant had a tray of food and two glasses and another bottle of champagne. So it was like my third bottle of the day. And she's like, she's coming with us, so you can have both. Okay, all right. Because she honored her, honored my request, so to speak, by having the food and the booze. But I missed all the people. I didn't get that. But anyway, I'm not sure why I brought that up. But um, there is it might be the creative artistry kind of zero sum game. I'm doing this and I'm going to do the right thing. But if somebody wants a certain kind of photography, isn't there different kinds of photography, that different styles that somebody's going to want for their wedding that would be important?
Oh, totally. Also, different types of personalities. You spend more time with your photographer than anybody else on your wedding day. So, if your personality doesn't fit with your photographer, you got to move on to somebody else. Like, it you have to want to spend a lot of time with them because you're with them more than your significant other. I'm sure you experience that too.
Yeah, but I was okay with that part, right? I mean, it's like she got to go do things over there and I could go, relax. And then she brought me in to go do things. We actually had pictures taken together as we were, during the preparation part, like getting dressed and the makeup and all that.
Oh,
It was a bigger package, I guess. I don't know, but it was. I thought it was a little weird at first, but it was. She did it tastefully. It was good.
that's great.
But I think you're right. Now that I think about it, there was more time spent with her than we was with anybody else.
Yeah.
You know, even the bartender, I didn't spend that much time
Sorry to hear that.
with. So the you part of the sales process, part of what what the company's doing is talk about how you structure that so that people can kind of come in and feel comfortable. Like, how do they get comfortable with that relationship? Because that to me is a challenge with any networking group, is being comfortable with the person who's going to do the thing.
Yeah, that's a big piece of it. So we host them online and in person. So I'm going to hit both of those here, if that's okay, because I think online isn't going to go away, and it'll be helpful for everybody. So when it's in person, a big part of what I do is I meet everyone as they come in, and I find out what they're doing and who they are. And then I can say, oh, well, you know who you should meet? This person, and I'll take them over and introduce them. Because then they already have an in, there's already a reason that I'm connecting them and introducing them. And for me, it takes 3 minutes to meet somebody and then introduce them to somebody else. But the impact of that when they come in, and they immediately feel welcome, cared for, seen, heard, and have someone there to talk to safely and comfortably, it makes all the difference in the world, because then you're not just doing like the boring sales pitch stuff or the anxiety provoking sales pitch stuff for a lot of people at networking events, or trying to find a circle and everybody's in the tight circle. So what are you going to tap them on the shoulder?
Right. Spill a drink on somebody's back.
Yeah. Like nudge your way in, like alignment. So that, I think that's part of the reason that they're really successful in person. In terms of virtually, what we do is I have everybody do their elevator pitch, or whatever you want to call that statement. That's essentially what the primary benefit of your business is, into the space, and they get 30 seconds to, say who they are. And then I have them drop that info and their links to connect in the chat. I send them all to breakout rooms with prompts, which are celebrating a win together, something they're working on, or a challenge they have that's current. Because usually somebody has an answer or resource or something for that person, and it feels really good to have that like ticked off the list. Mm-hmm. And then we have them share something that's like funny. So a cocktail item trivia piece, or something light, like what's your favorite thing to do in the city that you're from, that sparks like a real conversation. And I take all of those links that they drop in the chat and information, and I send it out to everyone who RSVP'd for the event afterward, so that they don't have to worry about trying to put their email address in and give it to somebody to connect later. And everyone that didn't get into a breakout room can actually connect afterward. And then I teleport around, because I don't want to miss out on the networking either and getting to know everybody.
So when you do the in-person ones, they're geographically convenient to where you are, because you're in the DC area, so you can kind of maneuver that around, right?
Yeah, so we can hit a big area in the DC area, because obviously DC, Maryland, Virginia, I mean, even Pennsylvania is only like an hour from here, and West Virginia is about an hour too. So we also have a big LA chapter, and we used to have New York, but I haven't ventured back post in quotes pandemic. Mm-hmm. Because it's a I don't know what's still open there, because I haven't been back up. enough to like know which spaces are still open, and a lot of people change jobs, so my venue connections are a little bit more limited. But we expand to wherever there's a group of people that wants to have that kind of networking experience.
Okay. And the size of the organizations that are part of the group, it, does that go from like solopreneur to a rep or somebody in a larger organization? Is that
It goes from solopreneur to about 10 people in the organization. I think we have one that's closer to 15, but average is about 10 people, is maximum 10 people. Minimum, obviously, would be one person. You can't have less than that.
and you can have more than one. You can have more than one photographer in a group, and
Oh, yeah.
everybody just sort of has to learn to play nice together. So how do you bridge that turning around and turning their back on you? How do you vet that, or how do you coach that before they show up at an event? How do you help
That's
them
a good
not be an ant?
question. I think a lot of that is conveyed in our branding. So a lot of the phrases that we use, and we're very value heavy, and we talk about being welcoming and lighthearted and that kind of thing. So people who live in that very competitive space tend to just immediately be turned off by it. And then if I see that is happening to someone, and the good thing is, as a former teacher, I see almost everything going on around me, then I will make sure that I go and grab that person that got iced out of the circle, and then I either introduce them to someone else or I talk to them.
That's easier to do in a live event, though, right?
Yeah,
It's
in
harder to pull
person.
off. Harder to pull off. So are you? Because you said earlier that you're not the remote or virtual events won't go away just because there's a certain, I don't know, expectation, I think, these days. Um, but going back to in-person events is ideally the best case scenario. Um,
Yeah.
how do you determine when it's time to open one up in Chicago or LA, or like what's that determination? Are you trying to do that? Is that a thing that is part of your growth plan?
Yes. So we usually what happens is someone will come to me and they'll say, "Hey, I'd really like to, I wish I lived in your area. I'd really like to be part of these events." And I'll say, "Well, if you know a space and you think that there's a community there that would want to be part of this, and you'll help me promote it so that we have people see it that are in your area and we make sure people show up, then let's do it." And if it works, great. People tend to be lifers. Once they come once, they'll come to all of the events,
Hmm.
or as many as they can, obviously, come to. So it works really well. Once you have an event somewhere, it tends to just continue to have that, the word is escaping me, perpetual
The
motion.
the I had it and I lost it, but like the sort of the momentum to get things
Yes.
going.
Thank you.
Centrifugal force I was thinking that's not it. Momentum's got to be it. Okay. So is there a core group that is really good, that they have a good mixture, and then you can build these concentric circles out of to getting a group? Is there like a core group of professions?
Um, Sort of. We have a core group of people who come to every single event. But they kind of have, I wouldn't say that it's a core group of professions, because they span a bunch of different, like one of them's a marketer and one of them only does social media engagement. So those two are probably the ones that would overlap the most, but one of them coaches young adults and teens on how to, function successfully in society and adults. Um,
To
so it
grow into
kind of
adults?
runs the, sorry?
To grow into good adults or grow into functioning adults?
Yeah, exactly. So we actually have like a really big span of different types of entrepreneurs. I think a lot of people go in thinking it's going to be a bunch of coaches and like business coaches. And we have as many business coaches as we do of any other overlap. So it isn't super heavy and you're not, so you're not fishing from the same group of clients in a competitive way, generally speaking.
What's the ideal size of the group? In terms
We
of the
cap
number of members.
we cap all of our events virtually at 25. We cap them at 45 in person.
Okay. So it's a nice manageable group of people where you can do what you said, right? Hey, let me introduce you to Bob and let me introduce you to Stephanie and let me introduce you, right? That makes it easier and then they can hand people off to, right? And it becomes a natural
Exactly.
at that point.
Exactly. Yeah, a lot of things in business, as you obviously know here, Walter, but come from the top down. So a lot of it is like modeling to the people that you want to see that behavior, including to your clients. In someone who's like a B to C person, that would look like boundaries potentially. But for me, it's behavior toward other business owners, shows them how to behave toward the other business owners there. And kindness is contagious, I think.
Well, I I think for the most part that's true, right? I mean, there's always the asshole in the group, but I remember a commercial, and I don't remember what the commercial was for, but something happened. Um, Somebody did something kind, like held open a door or did something like that, and then you follow that person who did got the received that gave that to somebody else, and it just paying it forward. I wish I could remember what the product was, but I thought it was a great commercial, um, because that's how it only just takes a little thing at the beginning of the day to have that momentum or that carry through to a bunch of other people, and you have no idea who that touches, but that's the cool thing, right? You have no idea. I was at a Starbucks the other day, and I got up there to give her my phone, and she's like, "The lady ahead of you paid for it." Like, what? And she's like, "Yeah, she said you just had a drink, so she paid for it." So I'm like, "Okay, like, what's the person behind me?" It's like, "Well, she's just got a coffee." I'm like, "All right, let me buy the coffee," right? And I don't know how many times that happened, but it, I mean, it was sort of a thing, and I have no idea who the lady was. All I know, she was driving a black Jeep Cherokee, and it was a lady, with red fingernails. Um, that
You were
was
in the
it.
drive-through, so it
I was
wasn't
in the
even like a
drive-through.
person to person.
No, no, yeah, I should have started that off. I was in the drive-through. Yes, she sort of paid it forward, if you will. Um,
Yeah.
but that could be as simply as holding the door open for somebody, right? I mean, so paying it forward is just part of this. And so let me ask you the hard question: is do you ever have to tell somebody they're not a good fit?
Yes,
And that
absolutely.
and those tough conversations are necessary, but they're tough conversations, all right?
I think the important thing when you have those types of tough conversations, it's actually very similar to getting a negative review, in my mind, because it's something that is just triggering that you're going to have to deal with, but you would rather pretend you didn't have to deal with it. Maybe I need some adulting coaching when I feel like that. But I always start with neutralizing the conversation. So making sure that I'm not using any sort of emotionally charged language, and that I'm emotionally unattached from the conversation. Because sometimes it's not a good fit for us, but sometimes it's also not a good fit for them. And I don't want someone to feel negatively about their obligation to be part of a group if it's not a good fit for them. If they are never going to see the ROI from it, they're wasting their time, which is more important than wasting their money, I think, because, money you can kind of make back. Time, you just lose it. It's
Yeah.
gone forever. So I look at it as caretaking, because you have to, for me, if you aren't a good fit everyone else in the group is going to feel that, and they're also not going to be generous in the same way, provide the resources, the knowledge sharing. They're going to resent the energy that you are pulling out of the room if you're, just speaking over people or whatever it is. They will all feel it, and they will just not be supported. And that's what community is. It's support. So I think being emotionally neutral in the conversation is probably the biggest thing that I can impart on people, and not using emotionally charged language. But I've had to fire wedding clients before too. And I mean, fire sounds very harsh, but that's really technically what you're doing. And pass them off to someone who's a better fit. And you can apply the same principle here. If it's a community and you're not a good fit for that community, but you know another community that might be a better fit, then it's a good way to be able to refer them to that other space too.
Well, it's the one of the things you said I think is really important is if you're not a fit, the group's going to know. The group's going to give that same energy back, right? And that's going to just, it's like Linus. No, it wasn't Linus. Who is the Peanuts character who had the little cloud over his head? Um,
Oh
he's
my
always
gosh.
dirty. Anyway, you
It'll
know what I'm
come
talking.
back to me because Pigpen.
Pigpen. Thank you. Thank you. Um, I mean that energy was always around him. That cloud of dust was always there, and it, I think that you can almost see that as somebody walks in, right? I can't read people's auras or anything, but you can kind of just get their vibe as they're maneuvering through the space, and it's usually pretty clear that, and they probably self-select out most of the time, I would think, right?
Almost always.
Yeah, well, you
Yeah.
don't have to have the uncomfortable conversation, but and I think that's really solid advice for other people who have to have, um, in sales, like a sales manager, a sales leader has to, do coaching calls, and they have to sometimes put people on performance improvement plans, and it's always about, to me, it's always about helping that individual elevate, right? To get
Yeah.
better at something, or to improve on their outlook, whatever the challenge is to help them. And if you approach it from that perspective and it's real, you can't fake it, right? You can't really fake um, that authenticity. But if you can get there and the person really wants to affect some change, then everybody come together and help and grow. Um, but I usually, like, if I'm going to do a performance improvement plan, I walk them through, like, here's why, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to do everything I can that will help you, right? So these are the things I'm going to be responsible for. But if you need something else, all you got to do is help. I'm going to do everything I can. So please think about this and don't say you want to do this unless you're really serious, because I'm going to be all in, and I expect you to be all in. And I make them, like, go home and think about it before they sign on and we go at it. And the ones that come back is like, no, I got to make this work. And I would say more often than not, people that really want to, we can get them there. But if they don't, it's a win for everybody, because there's, like you said, there's another networking group or another community that's going to help them more.
Yeah, accomplish whatever their goal is that is maybe misaligned with my value system or our community's entire personality, because every business, we have personalities. Our businesses are infused with our personalities.
They are, and our brand.
Yeah.
So I got one question about a tip for, because I remember going through looking for a photographer, and I was a little more mature and kind of knew what was important in the selection process. Um, but for that younger couple that isn't necessarily all mature and knows exactly what to do with photography, how do they? How do they communicate to a photographer what their vision is in their head when their vision isn't clear? Like, what do they
That's a
need?
great question. Honestly, I would say most people don't really know their vision, even when they think they do, because they've never gone through it personally. I mean, generally speaking, statistically speaking, they have not gone through this before. So they don't know what it looks like to go to the National Mall to get photos taken and then to their venue and how long all of those things take in terms of like actually doing the posing and how much it's lifting you out of your wedding day. So there are a lot of pieces here. And what I would say is that this is where you need to really find a vendor, a photographer in this case, that connects with you and understands that what you're not saying, but is gathering the story from what you are and then echoing it back to you through what they know to be the case on your wedding day. So if I have someone who says, you know, I'm really concerned with the lighting, then I'm going to ask follow-up questions about that and then potentially get to the point where like I find out, oh, you're a squinter and you know that the sun is going to be low in the sky that day. And so we are just going to switch the sides you stand on, or we're going to adjust this to be when you're in your ceremony, we'll have you stand here that's just slightly into the shade so that you won't have the sun directly in your eyes. So I think finding a photographer who's going to take the time to get to know what it is that you're saying and help guide you to the place of figuring out your style and your vision and then building it with you.
Okay, so I, what I heard is that photographer should make you one feel comfortable that you were heard, and they should be asking a lot of questions, right? Because lighting is like incredibly important to get photography right, right? So what is it like? And most of us have no freaking idea what different kinds of lighting should be and the warmth and the temperatures and all that stuff. Um, so just knowing that to be able to dial into like what she was really concerned about, that's a sales skill in my not so humble opinion to be able to peel back that onion to really uncover what their real concern is, right? Because what they throw out in the first piece isn't always what they're concerned about, right? And we
Which
got
is, you just literally did it to me. You echoed back what I said, restated it so that I even understood what I said better than what I said the first time.
but
Well
that
done.
yeah, well, I did it on purpose, but you explained it really well, so an idiot can understand it and give it back to you, right? Because I mean, I know. Yeah, I took a high school photography class in a dark room, and I learned how to do silhouettes and what is it when you reverse the negative thing and like you do the yeah, we did a a full moon behind a tree, and we got just the branches and the backlit. That was silhouette, right?
Yes.
So we had to play around with that, and then we had to do different kinds of lighting from different sides. So I know enough to be dangerous, but that was all like a long time ago, 4 decades ago. Um, and but to be able to um, work with somebody who understands their craft well enough to be able to dial that in to figure out the timing of things. So if I told you, like, look, I care about one thing. I don't want to miss my cocktail hour. Having some really good food, and I don't care what the deal is. I'm not leaving the cocktail hour. Now what?
So I would say, okay, would you be comfortable seeing the person you're marrying before the wedding?
Yes.
Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to have you tell all of the people who are on your VIP list that you want posed photos with that they are going to arrive at this location at this time before the wedding. We're going to knock out all those posed photos. And then if I need to steal you away for a few minutes, I will ask you. If you say no, I will be fine with that. But it would only be like 3 minutes as opposed to 45.
Okay. I like that better than here's a tray of food and here's a bottle of champagne. Um, because our
And
photography started at like 9 o'clock in the morning.
whoa,
Yeah,
that's early.
yeah, I thought so. Didn't start with me at 9 o'clock in the morning. It started with her, right? Because they did like casual shots and the whole thing. But um, but then we had a delay at the wedding, right? Because her relatives were, um, they said they were stuck in traffic, but there was no traffic. They got hung up at a bar and were partying. Um, um, but we
And
only had,
actually, that's a good point because I would ask that question too. I would be like, are your people going to show up on time? And if not, we're going to tell them this time. And if they're early, that's fine. They will wait, but we are not running you late.
yeah, well, we waited for the wedding to start because of them, not like the people that were in you said the VIP people, they were all
Yeah.
there on time. They were there on time. But it's the cousins that were the trouble, as they usually are.
Darn
Uh,
the cousins.
so if somebody wants to connect with you and are interested, like if they're in the DC area, or if they're interested in and they're serious about getting something started, what's the best way to reach out to you?
So the easiest way to find me if you're looking for the networking piece, because I should have specified this before, but these are two different businesses. I just have two businesses. So that would be districtbliss.com if you're interested in networking, either starting one in your area or coming to one of ours that are happening in the DC or LA area.
Okay, and they can find District Bliss on the website, and you're on LinkedIn too, right?
Oh yeah, I think we're District Bliss events on all of the socials.
Okay, and I'll have all of the Facebook and Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn, all of that on in the show notes. Um, and is there a particular area that you have a drive that you want to put something in because you want to travel to, or you want to get out of DC area in the wintertime and go to Florida? Is there a certain area you want to start one?
We've actually been we pick up steam in certain areas and we'll start getting virtual members in those areas. And we're getting a bunch in Texas. And we're getting a bunch in Toronto right now.
Austin or Dallas?
Dallas and Houston,
Oh, okay.
which
Austin's
seems super random, but
it does. And in Toronto, that's also kind of random from big distance from Texas. Um,
yeah, it's interesting. And it always makes me wonder, like, they aren't connected to each other before they come. So I'm like, how did we get you? Like, how did we get like five people from Houston?
that's a good question to try to figure out which one of your platforms are working, right? Or which ones are resonating in certain parts of the country. Um, that to me is the hard part of figuring out what actually works when it comes to social media, because it's not about likes for me, it's about dollars, and where does that come back to? Where do I spend my time? So
Yeah, because it has to be worth the investment of your time. Again, like time is the one thing you cannot make back up.
the juice has to be worth the squeeze, as we say.
Yes.
So I got last question I always ask. Does Sarah, past or present, have a relationship with cigars?
So I was thinking about this, and I have a past relationship with pipes, but not
Oh,
cigars.
okay. Well, some of the oldest cigar shops, you'll see pipes and cigars together, right? They're usually like sailboats and motorboats, right? We kind of like, yeah, we
Yep.
both like the water and we love speak to you not here, but you got a sail and I got a motor, so I'm cooler, right? Um, it's a similar thing with pipes. I remember I went into a cigar shop because I'm weird. I go, and wherever we go, I gotta go find the coolest cigar shop. So I'm in Milwaukee, and I walk into a cigar shop, and there's like it's old, like 100-year-old cigar shop, and they got all these cigars in these like retail spots on the side, and then in the center of the room, it's all this noise and like a networking event going on, and guys with beards and fancy mustaches and cool hats smoking pipes. And the cigar guy, I'm like, what's going on over there? And he goes, oh, hipsters. They like pipes. And I was like, enough said. So I don't mean to take steam out of your thing, but what's your pipe relationship? You didn't smoke a pipe.
No, I didn't. My grandfather was an amputee who built railroads in Pennsylvania. And what I remember is him sitting, like telling dad jokes and playing pranks and smoking a pipe.
So you get your prankish behavior from your grandfather? Is that...
Probably.
That's cool. All right. I appreciate that share. Thank you. Appreciate you taking the time. I'm going to have all those ways people can reach you. If you're in Houston or Dallas or Toronto, those are kind of like cooking a little bit, and they can get some virtual events going.
Oh yeah, I mean virtual, they can come from anywhere, but I think we probably are going to expand that way for in-person events in the near future.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much. We'll appreciate you taking the time to do this, because as you said a couple times, we don't get your time back. So
thanks for having me. I really appreciate you bringing me on the show.
Thank you.
To get your copy of Walter Crosbys' new book, The 7 Critical Mistakes CEOs Make with Their Sales Organization That Stop the Company from Scaling, follow the link in the show notes or go to Amazon.com. Thank you for listening to Sales and Cigars with Walter Crosby of Helix Sales Development. For more on Sales and Cigars, remember to like, share, and subscribe. Sales and Cigars, produced by thepodcastproshop.com.